Hello, the game has started. It's my opponent to go first. I have the blank. I don't have a 7-letter bingo, but I may have an 8 through the right floater, and I was thinking of oogamies, but I would have needed an M or an S for that. So, do I have anything with a G or a P? Close to Geropyga, but I don't have it. So, is there something here? Certainly nothing through the I. There could be a 7. I can't see it. So the P is the most likely. Well, I can't see anything. So how about sorting this rack out? I think given the number of vowels, I'd like to get rid of either both O's or 3 vowels. So I'm thinking of agio or oo. Oo is quite good because it doesn't offer much to my opponent. And that rack leave is fairly synergetic. Great. That looks a nicely balanced rack. I've got hearing with the blank as an R. I think what's playable is going to massively depend on what my opponent plays, given the current board setup. Jip takes an S. And I can't see a bingo with this rack with the blank as an S. But I'm optimistic that I'll be able to get something down. I'm looking in column 8 for a bingo which reaches a triple word square. But that would either be ending IO. Okay, my opponent's changed. So, hearing does play in column 10, making oo, but that opens up the triple word square, so I'd like to do better than that. The obvious spot to play is row J, hooking IO and PO. So I think I'll squiz through the alphabet and see what comes to mind. That looks like there's something there. Can't see it. Column 7 may also be a bingo lane ending in G. But that would be opening up row A. So heading. Either it's only an N or an S which can go after IO. And POG is not good. That's healing. That doesn't work, apart from column 10. I'm looking for plays which work in row J. That's hearing. Again, doesn't work. Heating and garnite. Ah, garnite does work. That just might be the one. Heaving. Great, so I have garnite. For 70 points. Fairly good, no scoring tiles and slightly vowel heavy. But I should be able to sort the rack out fairly easily and leave a decent rack leave. However, I may struggle to score. There are no 7s here, I believe. There may be an 8 through the right floater. But the only consonant floater I have is the G. And I can't see anything through that. My opponent provides no more consonants. So how to sort this rack out? I could certainly play double E for 9 points, not very much. I could play E-Day for more. 17. Not great, and I'm providing a pretty hot spot in row L and a jolly useful floating E. So I think I may be able to do better than that. Geo takes an A in front. So I could play A, E across here. But then I'm opening a bingo lane for bingos ending in S. However, that already exists in column 11. So a tricky spot. So what about just double E? I think this rack leave is fairly promising, especially keeping IN for going on to this G, and this provides very little for my opponent. Well, I now have a scoring tile in the W. I don't have a bingo ending ING. I can't see an 8 with this rack. I've got the weed prefix, or suffix rather, so I've got anti-weed through a T. So maybe my opponent will oblige. I've got a good lead, 79 points. So my opponent may well open the board up. He has provided a T, but it's in the wrong place for anti-weed. That's a shame. So, has he provided anything else? Well, vowels aren't very helpful to me. So I'm now looking to see where I can score with my W, and I note my W can go in front of this O. So I could play OR. That's keeping a balanced rack. Preferable to have more consonants than vowels, but that's close. And OR is quite good for my rack because both my D and my E can hook it. And I'm keeping the board open, which I'd like to do since I don't have a strong lead. Now, Otaries takes an N and an R in front. So, having considered OR for 24, what about waned for 36? I think that's a little better. It might not be good, which would be pretty annoying, but I think it is. Now, is this better than the OR spot? AWE left me with Dine. Dine versus E. Yeah, I think this is a better play. Not great. There could be an 8 here. So I've got the floating O, I, and A to consider. So quite a few floating vowels. But I'm not seeing a bingo. I think it's the duplicate N which is the problem. And if I don't have a bingo, I'm looking to get rid of the V and one of the N's. There are vowels next to premium squares, but none of them suits the V. Now I've got vinyl in row H, which would sort the rack out nicely, keeping ENS. 24, not a great score, but I don't think there's an awful lot on offer with this rack. I could play Van in column 10 for even fewer points, but leaving a nice rack leave of lanes. I'm just wondering if there is a bingo here. It looks close. Well, I'm not seeing it. It would be quite nice to avoid a rack leave with L and N, and I can do that. 29 for my opponent. So vinyl stays available. And we're pretty much neck and neck, so I'd quite like keeping the board open and keeping bingo-y rack leaves because I want to bingo and establish a lead. So, do I have a bingo here? This looks pretty good. So I would have inbreeds through a D. Can't see anything through this T. Now, I think Berlines is good, so I've got Berlines in column 15. What if that's blocked? Well, that's all I'm seeing. I can't see a 7 with this rack. If there were a 7, it could play in row D. Now onto an S, I would have Nebrises. Now, what about the A? That looks close. Well, I can't see it. I hope my opponent will be drawn to this premium square above the A. Well, it doesn't matter. He hasn't played there. He's only got 10 points. That looked like a bingo. It's not. I don't think touting takes an S in front. I've got Berlines, but for not many points. So, is there a better play through any of these floaters in touting? And Benitier's is good, but that's a 9-letter play. Bearnaise is good. Through 2 A's. Well, I'm not seeing anything. I think I'd like to get this bingo down. 61. Great, I draw the second blank and I've got the Z. I've got Zo and Zar for 12 million points in row B. I could have a bingo here. But it may be better to play the Zo-Zar and bingo next time. It would be good to get rid of the U. Okay, 52 for my opponent. My Zar spot remains available. So, is there anything better? Nothing provided by my opponent. I think this is going to be best. 64 points and a decent rack leave, including an S and a blank. And I draw a second U. I would have Futurism through a T or an I, neither available. Not many floaters available on this board now. My opponent's player Zoo has taken out the T, I and N, and the U doesn't go particularly well with my current racks. That's slightly disappointing. However, I do have scoring tiles in the F and the M, and a play of Thumb would certainly sort this rack out. I could play that in column 7, but there's still an S to come and 3 E's, so that's a bit needlessly reckless. Or needlessly volatile, rather. So, what would be better? I can play Thumb, Ut, and Mo. I've got a 50-point lead. I'm not bothered about taking out the floating T, because it's a very precise location for a bingo. Now, I don't think there's... Well, I was going to say there's no way I can play off both U's, but I could with Umu. However, that's keeping the F. And given I've got no other vowels, the U could be quite useful, especially as the Q is still to come. So, I've got Thumb up here for 18 points. Pretty decent rack leave, not providing anything for my opponent. And if he plays in column 5, well, he'll be opening up a bingo lane in column 4. And there is a bingo lane open on this board. There's row M. But that's pretty much it. But it doesn't really matter because I'm ahead. So the lack of bingo lanes really helps me. My opponent may be more inclined to open a bingo lane, at which point hopefully I can pounce. But the point for the moment is Fum best? 10 minutes on my clock, 29 tiles left. Fum scores 18 points. Is there a better spot for Fum? I could play Fums in column 14, but I quite like the S for the Geo hook. And it's only about 7 more points. And I think the S helps the U. I just don't want to miss some 20 or 30 point or just obviously better play. Well, I can't see a better play. I'm going with this. Not great. However, there could be something here. I think if there is a bingo, the vowel would be a blank. Can't see anything with it as an A. This is quite a nice rack because if I don't bingo, I've got yup. Now, my opponent has opened the board up. He's opened a 9-timer. Do I have a bingo through the L? This is quite easy to consider because I'm pretty sure the blank would need to be a vowel. Can't see anything there. Can't see anything there. Can't see anything there. And U's not very likely. Well, that's drawing a blank. Now, I could play yup in column 6, yup and joy. That would sort the rack out nicely. Yup does take an S. I'm stopping my opponent from 9-timering, which is probably the main danger. 27 points, quite a decent score, decent rack leave. But my opponent's play of Jarl took out the row M bingo lane, so my play of Yup is closing down bingo lanes at a time when I've got the blank and the S, so is this the right thing to do? Maybe I should be playing something in row O, opening a couple of bingo lanes. 8 minutes on my clock. And possibly scoring more. So I could play Truly. 24 points. Well, that's not great. It's not opening up the second lane. Let me just put this back. So, is there a bingo through the R? I've got the up prefix. What about Purtrays? Purtrays. Not sure about that. 7 minutes on my clock. Just considering in my mind this rack with an extra R. Purtrays. Just not sure of it. I don't think I can leave this L open. The remaining tiles are just too good for that. So I'm going to go with yup. Fantastic. That is an excellent rack. There could still be a 9-timer in row O with the S in 5th place. So, do I have such a play? And is there anywhere else I can consider? Well, there is. There's row O with simply putting an S on the end of yup. So I've got sitters in row O. Nothing goes in front of Tsar, so row A isn't a bingo lane. There's row N for bingos beginning with P or going through R and P. But is there one? Okay, I don't need to worry about a 9-timer. I've got sitters, which is great. Verl has killed this part of the board. Very few bingos end in V. And not many end in I. So I've got sitters. That places an E underneath this premium square, which could easily allow my opponent to get 40 or 50 with the W or Y on that spot. So I need to find a better bingo than sitters. So I'm looking for, so I've got striate, that still places a vowel underneath there, which is even worse with the Q out there, although no I. So I'm looking for bingos beginning with C, beginning with S rather. I've got, well, that's shitter. Does that work? Yes, it does. Fantastic. I don't think I'll bother looking any further since my time is short. So shitter for 80. Not good, but I think it's fine. I'm 110 points in the lead. The board is pretty much locked down. And I've got scoring tiles, albeit with only one vowel. So my opponent's in a grim spot. Now, I've got womb in column 14, which would score quite well. My M and B can go in front of oi, but I can't see a 5-letter play. What else is available? Now, I note that my opponent can play his Q over this I, but that's not particularly dangerous. It's only 22 points. No U's to come. There's a risk that I may draw the Q. But there are still some A's, so there would be the cat spot available. And there's another I spot above the I of shitter, so there are opportunities for the U. Annoyingly, my opponent's taken my womb spot. And I hadn't identified an alternative play, so I'm going to have to think of one now. 5 minutes on my clock, 5 tiles left. So it may be worth hanging on to my O in case I don't pick one. That's pretty annoying, because womb would have been a fine play. So I can play in row B, and I think I may play my O. I think with 3 tiles I'm likely to pick up a vowel and possibly 2. 26 points, which is good. I am providing a scoring spot for my opponent. So a player YA would score well. So this probably isn't optimal. 4 minutes on my clock. It looks good, but it provides a very easy scoring spot. And there aren't many scoring spots on this board. However, nothing better is coming to me. Can't see anything coming down here onto the I. Is there a better play in this spot? Well, it doesn't matter in the sense that I am ahead. So I think this is easily winning enough. Well, I draw the Y and the A, which are both vowel-y. And my opponent actually has got no high-scoring tiles apart from the Q, so he can't score well up here, and I can. I've got nothing in front to go in front of BE. Okay. I wonder if the Q was in the bag. Interesting. The bag is now empty. I can see what my opponent's got. 3 minutes on my clock. I think the best thing for me would be to go out in 2 if I can, but that might be a struggle. I note that my H can go... Well, I was thinking about column 14, but what about a play in row N? Can I play off 4 tiles across here? So I've got achy, A-C-H-Y. That's not going to allow me to go out in 2. I could play match, keeping the Y. So I would now have gride onto an E, which isn't there. It may be there isn't an out in 2. Oh wow, 2 minutes on my clock. That's not much. 28 points for match is a good score. I will be able to score again with the Y. Well, this just doesn't feel particularly great. But maybe it was just too much of an ask. Now, what about a play down here? Given that I know my opponent's got the Q, I've only got 2 minutes left, so I haven't really got time to identify all his Q spots. So he's got cat onto this T, and he's got chi down here, and they're both quite similar. I was just wondering if I had a longer play down onto this I. And I'm thinking in terms of going out in 2. Now, thumb takes a Y. So I could play yum. Well, I think time is creeping up on me. I'm going to go with match. So next go I could play yug, if that's good. I think it is. So I'm expecting my opponent to dump his Q. Yep, quite nice. Now he's got teen, which he may be able to go out with, but I'm going to play yug for 21. I've got DR, I can play Erd in row M. And I've got Royd in column 11. So if my opponent doesn't go out, I certainly can. But he may have an out. This is quite a nice 4-letter set. I'm just looking around for outs for my opponent. I haven't seen anything yet. I think match takes an E. Okay, 16 for my opponent, so I get another go. I've got Erd for 5 points. Is there a better spot? Now, my Royd spot has been taken, so I've got D and R. I've got just less than 1 minute. Just looking around the board fairly randomly to see if anything appears. Well, I can't see anything, so I'm going with Erd. Just wait for my opponent to formally end the game, which he does. And the final score, 385 to my opponent, 481 to me, a winning margin of 96 points. So a big win and quite a high score. Let's see what I missed. It was my opponent to go fast. He played Jip. I didn't have a bingo. Agio keeping EO blank. What did I do? I played Oo, and I prefer my play. I think the rack leave is better. My opponent he changes, and this was my rack, and I've got a bunch of bingos. All of the J. Jenny's are. Yep, that was quite nice for 72. I did Garnite for 1 fewer point, so not much difference there. My opponent plays Geo. And Yeah, I struggled with this rack and not much on offer, although it looks like I'm getting 10 fewer points than I could have got. My 5-letter rack leave is quite a lot better than these 2 and 3-letter ones. Great rack for my opponent. He has a few bingos to choose from. And now this was my rack and waned. Well, it is good. However, had I been in doubt, I should certainly have played weaned, which I would have been 100% sure of. My opponent plays cake. This is my rack, and I played Nival. No, I didn't. I played vinyl in the same spot. And that looks fine. My opponent plays touting. And now Berlines was the only bingo, so glad to have spotted that. My opponent plays zoo, and then I have a 64-point zoo play, which was great. And that gave me a 90-point lead. So I was in a strong position here with that lead and a blank. My opponent plays feel. Wow, there's a bingo here. M2. Frustum. Gosh, what a miss. A 7-letter bingo. Okay. Now I played thumb, I think, for 18 points. So although my rack lead was good, it wasn't worth 60 points. So that was a miss. My opponent plays Jarl, and now no bingo here, but Purty, a really nice score, 38 points. And I think that's going to be better than... Well, I played Yup for 27, so I dropped 11 points, but I kept a better rack leave. So not a huge amount between those plays, and of course Purty would have opened up row O more than Yup does. My opponent plays Verl, and now I do have a bingo, and Shitter looks fine. My opponent plays Docs, and now we're in the pre-end game, and I played Bow, and I think that's fine despite my reservations. My opponent doesn't have a bingo, he plays La, and now we are in the end game, and I played Match for 28. And really it's a case of, is there an out here? Now, I won Hydra and Agio, keeping G and M. And I mention that one because it's the only play which looks like there may be an out in 2. And then there would have been Mog and M. Would there have been a second out? Well, I would have played Hydra, so there would have been Jim in column 2. So, yeah, Hydra would have guaranteed the out in 2 and may have been the best play. My opponent plays Caddy. And I play Yug, which looks fine. My opponent doesn't have an out. Plays Zanti, which was a nice spot. And then I go out with Erd, which was the only out. So a pretty good game. It's nice to score up towards 500 points. Disappointing to miss Frustum, but that happens. And overall, just a whole bunch of interesting positions, which Scrabble reliably delivers, which makes it such a great game. So I hope you enjoyed watching that, and I will see you next time.